Hi, this is Rabbi Tzvi Mandel. We'll continue the laws of Megillah and Kitzur Shulchan Aruch and the poskim that come after that, the halacha, the starters, and very interesting halacha that I spoke about last night. We had a meeting for the rabbis in Igdar Rabbanim, Rabbinical Alliance of America, and since in the month of Adar, my wife and I have yahrzeit. I have for my father, which is the 11th of Adar, and my wife has for her father, which is 9th of Adar, 2 days in between, but it was 10 years in between that they passed away. So I spoke there for their Aliyas Neshama. So, there's an interesting halacha that if a person comes late and misses the brachas, so Rav Feinstein says he can make the brachas on his own and catch up to the reading of the Megillah, even though he's not reading from a Megillah itself, he's reading from a Chumash, or if he knows it by heart, it's also fine. And then he goes along with the person that's reading the Megillah. So the question is, if he makes the brachas, let's say, on the part of the Megillah after it started, what happened? He came late he missed the brachas, and then in the beginning he heard some of the verses, some of the psukim, and he has to catch up now because the guy's going further on. So he makes the brachas where it is. Question is, isn't there a halacha that a bracha has to be done before you do the mitzvah? Ayvul and the Gemara says in many places. So here he missed the beginning of the Megillah. So I said about that actually it doesn't matter, or it would be dependent. There's a difference of opinions between the Chayadim and the Rav. There's a halacha in the Til Sedem when you wash your hands to eat, that one has to wash the hands and they also have to wring their hands. When do you wring your hands? Do you wring your hands after you make the bracha of the Til Sedem? Meaning, you're washing your hands first. And you make a bracha of the Til Sedem. And then you wring your hands. And then you wipe your hands. That's how the Rav learns. The Chayadim says, no, you wash your hands and you wring your hands and then you make the bracha, because even though the wringing of the hands is part of Natil Sedayim, but since you already had washed your hands without making a bracha of Natil Sedayim, because the rule is Natil Sedayim and mikveh by a convert or by a person that's not pure in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, and that's why we're washing, because the hands are impure. So the bracha is said after washing your hands or after you go to the mikveh, because before you're impure, you can't make a bracha. Or if a person's a convert, he's a guy before, so he can't make a bracha before. He can't say, Hashem, you made us holy with the mitzvahs, because he's not Jewish. So therefore, first he goes in the mikveh, first we wash our hands, and then we make the bracha. So since you're doing that anyway, says the Chayadim, so you already wring your hands also, you do the shif also. Says the Baal Tanya, no. Make the bracha before you wring your hands, and then you wring your hands after and wipe your hands. The question was, but when you wash your hands, you already made the bracha, and that was, so might as well. He said, no, but you save every piece of Ayvul Asiyasin that you can. Every little bit of making the bracha before doing a mitzvah, even if it's only a half a mitzvah, it's also fine. So over here also, according to the Rav, you make the bracha after you started, or after the reader of the Megillah started, then you make your bracha, then you continue from where you're up to, and then you catch on to wherever the person who's reading the Megillah is. Okay. Okay, we got up to Machzah Shekel we learned about. (968), I believe we're holding, page 968, which is chapter 141 in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, on Purim, in the Shmona Esrei of Ma'ariv, the evening service of Ma'ariv, after the fast, and Shachas in the morning davening, and Mincha, the afternoon, davening on Purim. We recite Al Hanisim, literally that means for the miracles. If you forget to say that, same halacha applies like by Hanukkah, you don't have to repeat it. Number 7, it is an obligation upon everyone, both men and women, to hear the reading of the Megillah in the evening and during the day. Therefore, girls too should go to the synagogue. If they do not go somewheres, they must read it themselves at home. Children too must be trained to hear the reading of the Megillah. And the Mishnah Berurah in 689 goes at length to explain that one has to be careful with his children and make sure they don't overdo the banging of the Haman by the reading of the Megillah and disturb others. In our shul, we were always very strong about make all the noise you can, but at the right time we stop and you can go further. It's not such a big deal to take care of, and if people are normal and mature, they know it on their own. Nevertheless, says the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch that you shouldn't bring the children to the congregation, not to disturb the congregation. Okay, but as I said, in a very practical way, it's easily taken care of and it's no big deal. Especially maybe if the rabbi speaks about it the Shabbos before or right before the reading of the Megillah, then each parent knows what to do to take care of their child, hopefully, and everything's okay. 8, paragraph 8, at night. It is forbidden to read the Megillah before the stars come out, even if you suffer great discomfort because of the fast. But you may taste something before the reading of the Megillah, such as the coffee and similar beverages, to strengthen yourself from exhaustion of the fast. You may eat a kibbetza of bread or cake, or liquid in the same quantity, as it says in the Mishnah Berurah. Kibbetza is like the size of an egg. We'll soon see about that. 9. Paragraph 9. The mitzvah done to perfection, the best way of doing the mitzvah is being joyous when you do the mitzvah. Also, besides that, within the act of doing the mitzvah, any mitzvah, there's something called mitzvah min hamufcha, the most chosen way to do the mitzvah, the best way how to do it, and that is what this seif in the Shulchan Aruch is going to speak about. But if it's not done with joy, I don't think it's even worth doing. Because everything has to be b'simcha. Yid is b'simcha. Why are you b'simcha? Because of the fact that you're an Elach Yid, that you're doing Hashem's will. This is the greatest thing in earth. Okay, so the mitzvah done to perfection is to hear the Megillah in the synagogue, where there is a large number of people for, as it says, in the multitude of people is the splendor of the king. This is in Proverbs 14, pasuk 28. In Hebrew, it's Beroiv Hadras Melech. Okay. Respect for the Eibusher, where there's more people, more Jews. You should at least make an effort to hear it read with a minyan. If it is impossible to have it read with a minyan, each individual should read it from a valid Megillah and recite the brachas, the blessings, before the reading. If one of them knows how to read it and others do not, then the one who knows it should read and the others should listen and fulfill the obligation in this manner, even though there is not a minyan. However, The bracha after the Megillah, the blessing after the reading of the Megillah, should be said only when there is a minyan. However, without mentioning Hashem's name and kingship, that means Elokeinu Melech Haolam, even an individual may recite this blessing. Okay. Mishnah Berurah again in 687 quotes the Chayyim who wrote that if you pray all year round with a specific minyan, you belong to a specific congregation, you need not leave it to go to a synagogue where there are more people. Mishnah Berurah comments that Chayyim's ruling applies only when the minyan is held in the Beis Medrash, but if the minyan is held at a private home, it would seem that you should leave it and go to the synagogue where there are more Jews to hear the Megillah, so there's more of a respect for the king, for Hashem. Okay, we will soon see about these things. We'll do one more and then we'll look up the other commentaries. Number 10, paragraph 10. It is a custom accepted in all of Israel that the reader does not read from a rolled up Megillah, but he spreads it out and folds it section over section, like a letter, because the Megillah is called Igeres Purim, the letter of Purim, literally. But those who listen do not have to spread out their Megillahs if they have one, kosher Megillah. Only the one who reads it does that. Again, from Mishnah Berurah 690, paragraph 56 says as follows: this should be done before he says the blessings, so that there will be no interruption between the blessings and the reading of the Megillah. Okay. We will first go to Shalom Messianim Halacha. 141 is the chapter that we've been reading. It says as follows. We read about that every man and woman should hear the reading of the Megillah. The Shilas and Shuvas Hilchos Tanis, that's from Arishain, one of the earlier commentaries, says as follows in the second volume. Siman Reish Ayin Vav. People that are sitting in a cave, which happened not so many years ago, whether it was by Hitler, or in Siberia, what Jews have gone through to read the Megillah. And one hears from a voice that someone's reading a Megillah from far away. And since the voice is a voice of a voice, it's not the actual voice, but it's like a resounding voice. It's not the original person's voice. It's not good. He's not Yaitza. He's not considered like he's doing the mitzvah. And therefore, if he hears Kriyas Megillah through a telephone or a microphone, this Hilchos Ktanis brings, according to this halacha, he's not Yaitza, he's not fulfilling his mitzvah. The great Rabbi Yosef Engel in his Sefer Gilyonei Hashas in Brachas Chaf Hey 25 and he says as follows: Are you Yaitza hearing it? Is it okay to do the reading of the Megillah through hearing it from something else, as we just spoke about? So he derives from this Hilchos Tanis that we mentioned, that says over there that someone who can speak but he can't hear only through a utensil, someone has a hearing aid, let's say. So since we have a halacha, the Talmud says in Sukkah 37, Lamed Zayin, that taking something of a mitzvah through another utensil, through, let's say someone's taking the four species on sukkahs while wearing a glove or through a box, so it's okay. So over here it's also okay. With a hearing aid or a hearing device or a telephone, it would be okay. This is how one of the greatest Paiskim, Rabbi Yosef Engel, says in his Gliyonei Hashas. And the same thing we find that the Shas Tshuvos Minchas Elazar, one of the biggest Rebbes of the previous generation, who was also a Paisik, he wrote a sefer by the name of Shas Tshuvos Minchas Elazar. The Heilige Munkacher, in his second volume, says in Simonayim Beis that he sees nothing wrong with hearing the Megillah through the telephone. Same thing in Shas Tshuvos B'nai Maven. However, says Rabbi Braun, Shomer Tzion Malacha, that these great people, as great as they were, they didn't know how these utensils were created. And since today we know that all these utensils, like a telephone and a radio and other things like that, you don't hear the actual voice of the person that's saying it. So it's the electricity's voice that you hear. It's a real problem, he says. And you can't do it that way. What's with the hearing aid? He doesn't speak about it over here. So we'll go further. One should hear the reading of the Megillah by night and by day. So he brings a very interesting conversation over here. Very interesting topic. Taisus and the Ran and Megillah, these are the foremost earlier commentaries, the Rishonim. They say in Megillah, Daf Dalet Amud Aleph 4a, that the main mitzvah of the reading of the Megillah is by daytime. The Tur Yevon says over there that the reading of the Megillah the night before is only a rabbinical responsibility. It's only a rabbinical mitzvah. However, by day, Mordechai and Esther, the ones who made this mitzvah of reading of the Megillah through Ruach HaKodesh, through open prophecy, and it has a halacha like a deraisa. One must respect it like a mitzvah of the Torah itself. But that's only for men. Women have to do it also, but it's only the Rabbanan. For them, it's only a rabbinical responsibility. Now, Rashi in Tractate Tainus 28b says as follows, that Hallel, the Hallel that we say, the service of Hallel, which we say on Rosh Chodesh and holidays, since the prophets were the ones who made it, so it's considered like Deraisa Mamish. It's considered like the Torah itself wrote to do it. So here too, by Megillah. This is how he says. Noid Yehuda, one of the foremost Paiskim, halacha deciders, in his Sefer Noid Yehuda, Siman Mem Aleph 41, says as follows, that the Mordcha says that the reason why we don't have to read the Megillah 2 days, the 14th of Adar and the 15th of Adar. After all, it's a holiday, and by all holidays we have 2 days, Pesach and Sukkot is 2 days, because of the Sveika Yoma, because we're in Galus. In Israel they don't do that, and it's a minig for hundreds of years, so we kept the minig. That's how the Rav Shulchan Aruch understands the second day of Yom Tov Sheni Shel Galus. So here too, why don't we read it 2 days? So the Modcha says is because since it says V'lo Yaver in the Megillah, you don't have to do it more than what it says. So we don't have to read it more than 1 day either, even though it's a suffix, even though it's questionable which day is the 14th of Purim. Now, so we see from all this, says in Noid Yehuda, that one should not let a boy who's not yet 13 years old read the Megillah. The daytime Megillah, which we're saying has a din like a Dairaisa, which has the strength and the responsibility of a scriptural, of a Torah written law, as if it's written in the Torah, unless we know for sure that he has the simanim of a bar mitzvah, that he on his body, his hair has grown like a bar mitzvah boy. Otherwise, he shouldn't read it for the public. And the Magen Avram was also one of the foremost commentaries in the Shulchan Aruch itself. The great Magen Avram in Siman Reish Ayin Aleph in 271 says the same thing as far as Kiddush is concerned, reciting the Kiddush on Shabbos Yontif for somebody else, that a minor shouldn't do it. And the same thing in Binyan Shlomo is also one of the foremost commentaries in his Tshuvas in Siman Nun Ches says that since the laws of reading the Megillah has a din of Dairaisa, of the scriptural law, Torah law, and according to Tur Yevin, women only have to do it like a rabbinical law, like we said. Therefore, one may be lenient and allow a bar mitzvah boy, even though we don't know if he has the simanim of a bar mitzvah, we don't know on his body if he has the extra hair, and therefore, if there's no one else to read, a boy that's not bar mitzvah yet may read it for others. Mishnah Berurah in Tafresh Peites, that's 689, says that even a minor past 9 years old, the age of chinuch, may also do it. Now, there's a very interesting case that sounds foreign to us, but again, through all that Jews have been through, and all the armies of the nations of the world today, thank God we have the state of Israel, we have a Jewish army, we have plenty of Yidden in the army that Balei Tshuvas and coming back to Yiddishkeit, and plenty of people that are working to help our brothers and sisters. So this is not a common question that we're going to speak about now. It's not a common shaila, but in the Gullus, through the last 2,000 years, plenty of Jewish people had to serve for the armies of the countries that they lived in. It happens to be an unbelievable thing that there was a great tzaddik, the Kapitchin Rebbe of Varsha. He was the father-in-law of the great Kapitchin Rebbe that lived in America, Rebbe Avraham Yeshua Heschel, who Baron Kotler said about him that he was the greatest in Chesed, and other great people were very respectful of him. But this Kapitchin Rebbe that was in America, Rebbe Avraham Yeshua Heschel, passed away after the Six-Day War in '67. His father-in-law was a Moshe Mordechai Heschel. He was the Kapitchin Rebbe of Varsha, of Warsaw, Poland. So he had made up with the Polish government that all Jewish soldiers, in other words, regardless of whether they thought it was important, whether they were brought up with religion or not, and there were plenty that wasn't, even in those days, that weren't aware of the Jewish religion. They just went to the Polish army. So all the Jewish soldiers spent Friday night and Shabbos by him. So this great tzaddik would have, I would guess, hundreds, maybe thousands of soldiers every Shabbos, spending Shabbos with him. Very, very special. What an Ahavas Yisrael. How did this great man love another Jew? Imagine the expenses, and there was no government money to cover for it, I guarantee you. Okay, so going back to this shadow, so there's a question as follows. A guy who's in the army, a soldier in the army, and he's given a choice, either a night or a day, to have a little vacation, right? They give him, let's say, 1 day a week or 1 night a week that he could have off. What should he do? So there's actually a difference of opinions between the Radvaz and the Magen Avram, what to do. Now, we'll read it as follows. So the Radvaz, in his Shuvas, in his response, Siman Gimel 13, says as follows. We don't look at which mitzvah to do. We don't try to figure out which mitzvah should he do. An easier mitzvah or a more stringent mitzvah. The first mitzvah that comes to his hand, that's what he should do. Because we have a rule, Ein Mavirin Ala Mitzvahs, that one doesn't pass up on a chance to do a mitzvah. Therefore, he should pick a night to do a mitzvah. He should pick a night, and it doesn't matter what it is or what mitzvahs are involved in. And he should he says, actually, he should pick a night to go and hear the reading of the Megillah. Hold on. As opposed to the sheet of the Chacham Tzvi, the view of the great Chacham Tzvi, in his response 106, says that one should try to find the most stringent mitzvah, the best mitzvah, the strongest mitzvah, however you want to describe it, and that's the night that he should decide to have off. He should try to get the government to allow him to have off. The Magen Avram, in Shulchan Aruch, one of the foremost commentaries, if not the foremost commentary on the Code of Jewish Law in Shulchan Aruch, in Siman Chafei, that's in 25, says like the Radvaz, and the Vilna Gaon says like the Chacham Tzvi, and Rabbi Braun quotes a Rashi in Tractate Sukkah 25b, the Remaschel Shachal, that says, Mitzvah kala haba liyadai, even an easy mitzvah that comes to your hand, you shouldn't push it away, because there will be a more stringent and more rewarding mitzvah in the future. That's what Rashi says. Okay, interesting thing. Now, we had read in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch that one should not read the Megillah before it's dark, before the stars come out. If it's very important for a person to read the Megillah before, for whatever reason he can't, one may read from Plag HaMincha. We spoke about Plag HaMincha previously. And from the Magen Avram, it seems that he holds like that as well. Shulchan Aruch says that, and the Magen Avram agrees with that, but the Pri Chodesh holds, and it's brought down in Pri Megadim, which is Zav, Sivkat and Gimel, and also the Vilna Gaon, they hold that you have to have actual night. For all of these things, we have to look at the specific calendars that are made when it comes out, what's night and what's day, and when the stars come out, and what kind of stars. We're not going to get into that. They derive this halacha, this law, because it says v'layla v'laydu mili, the Psalms that Esther said. She mentions actual night, so it has to be night. However, the Shari Tshuva says that for either sick people or women that just gave birth, and the Bir Halacha brings it down as well, that one may read a little bit before night, and the Chassam Sofer in his Tshuvas, in his responsa, 195, Kuf Tzadikei, also seems to hold like the Shulchan Aruch, and so do the Merikzi and the Ivets. Okay. Very interesting Be'ehitiv in Tafresh Sadik, that's 690, says that even if your home is right next to the synagogue, you're a neighbor of the shul, and your windows are open, and you can hear the reading of the Megillah from your home, still it's a mitzvah to go to shul, to the synagogue. Okay. This was Rabbi Bruin. See if the Rav adds anything. 141. Not right now. Let's see what the Shas Shuvas Yadaydi, what Reb David says about this. I think we're covered so far. Okay, we'll stop here in a while. Have a great, joyous Shabbos. See you next time, Mitzvah.